Hello class and welcome to this Zelda 2 walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands. We have a veritable classic on our hands today and also simultaneously the black sheep of the Legend of Zelda series, trading in the top-down perspective for a side-scroller this time around. I have a lot of love for this game. I know some people don't love it nearly as much as I do. Some people don't love it at all, hence the term Black Sheep, but not on this channel. We have a lot of love for this game, so we're going to have a good time with this one today. By the way, if you want to skip ahead to the Zelda 2 walkthrough, we have a timestamp right at the top of the description of this video, but I just want to say a couple quick things about this game. In terms of difficulty, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. As an aside, that title was always odd to me, The Adventure of Link. I mean, what were we doing in that first game? We weren't shopping for pants. No, it was an adventure. It was Link's adventure, but I digress. Speaking of that first game, Zelda 2 is a bit more difficult than the first Legend of Zelda, which, incidentally, you can check out our class on it via a link in the description, but in terms of difficulty, I'm going to give Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, a 7 out of 10, based mostly on the amount of awful pits you can fall into in this game. On the frustration scale, this game's difficulty equates to punching a hole through the wall. Maybe with the magic hammer, item we're going to be picking up a little bit later on in this game. Blaze is going to talk about that. He's got your standard items guide for every single item you will find here in Zelda 2. Gary has your boss beaters for tips on taking down every single boss as we go. And Fluff has a number of interesting facts about Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. He's going to share with us a little bit later as well. But before we get into that, right now we have a very special guest. Let's bring him in. The most gifted Hylian of all time, Link himself. Thanks for being here, Link.
Hey, thanks for having me. My friend Mario said this would be a good time.
Mario said that? I mean, yeah, you can check out those classes that Mario attended via the link in the playlist. No pun intended there, Link, of course.
That's not funny.
Oh, well, could you give us a little context as to what's going on?
Sure. So after I totally destroyed Ganon, Impa told me a sleeping spell was cast on Princess Zelda. She said she'd only wake with the power of a Triforce sealed in a palace in Hyrule. To break the seal, crystals had to be placed in statues in 6 well-guarded palaces. It was a bitch. It's my most adventuresome quest yet.
Great. Well, I'm very excited to start playing it. And are you all right, by the way? You seem a bit distracted. Do you need a coffee or some of Fluff's Ritalin?
Nah, I just always have to keep my guard up. You never know when Ganon's gonna sneak up behind you.
I'm not sure he does that.
Well, we'll have to agree to disagree.
You almost did the line there. Any chance we could get it?
I'm not sure what you're talking about, Professor.
No, you know, the famous line from your TV show from back in the day.
Look, I did a lot of things I'm not proud of in the 80s, okay? And that's one of them. Can we just move on?
All right. You're right. I'm sorry. Let's just move on. You know, I don't want this to sound like a rebuke, Link, but you were a bit late getting in here today.
Yeah, you're right. That wasn't very professional of me, and I apologize.
Yeah, and I don't want to linger on this. It's just, you know, we confirmed the info with Navi, and she assured us that, you know, you knew the time.
Look, the traffic was bad. That's not an excuse, a justification, but I'm sorry.
Say the line.
You know what? Mario warned me about this. You just cost yourself a TA. And good luck figuring out the Grand Palace without me. Later, losers.
That was pretty close. We'll get him back. Don't worry. Alright, as we begin a new game, Fluff's working on getting Link back. Maybe this will help grease the wheels a little bit if we name our character Link. I mean, it is canon after all, but I'm just giving up on trying to put in longer names. Trying to squeeze in Professor and just coming up with variations of it. So follow along at the beginning of this as we take a look at the controls, but we're going to grab ourselves a power-up early on in this game, but the control's very simple. A lot of them are based on moves and items we don't have yet, but you can see everything right there. But jump with A, attack with B right now. Pause with start, move around with the D-pad. Pretty straightforward. We're gonna pop in this cave just south of the first temple where we can grab this magic container here to add an extra bar to our magic. We don't have any spells yet, but we will have plenty as the game goes on. We can duck with down and use our shield just by having it in position to block some of those boulders they were firing at us. You can see you couldn't really tell what was going on there, but you can sort of see the outlines of the enemies well enough to certainly warrant going in there and picking up that first magic container. Next, we're going to head over here to, this is the town of Nabooru. So every time you're in a town, make sure you go into the open doors. A lot of times you can find certain items or abilities in these towns. Or some really bad advice. If all else fails, use fire. That's terrible advice. It's a poor attempt at a Briggs note right there. He applied for the job, did not get it, based on terrible tips like that. You can talk to this lady in red who hangs out next to a house, and she'll top off your health. I feel like she might be a sex worker, but I don't know. That's cool. Don't really know what goes on behind that closed door, but anyway, can't argue with the results. And you know what? Zelda's in a coma. I guess that's Link's free pass. He's not here to defend himself, so I guess I'll just keep talking like that till he comes back. So more importantly than entering the open doors is to find the people who are kind of pacing back and forth outside of a building, because more often than not, they'll invite you in if you do something for them, or early on, even if you don't, they'll just invite you in, and you'll usually get a spell or an ability, and in this case, it's Shield, which is a very important spell, which halves the damage we take when we cast it. At least while we're on the screen. As soon as we leave that screen, it wears off. A detail that wizard failed to mention, but it was free. Can't argue. So let's just head out once we have the item we want from the town. We don't need anything else in said town. So now that we have a moment, let's take a look at the Briggs notes for this Zelda 2 walkthrough. These are the keys to beating this game. First, stay ahead of the curve with hearts, magic containers, and experience. If you saw our walkthrough of the first Legend of Zelda game, you'll know that we did the Let's Play with Briggs School for Gifted Hylians, where we gave you that fast track start with the game. It's going to be similar in this game, where we're going to show you the earliest possible times you can get all of the upgrades to make everything in this game a whole lot easier when you have just a little bit more magic, a little bit more health, all that good stuff. Secondly, use the magic jar trick to replenish health and magic as necessary in the palaces. This will be more applicable later on in the game, but it is a game changer, it really is. If you don't already do this, you're going to love this trick. And lastly, use the grind spot after, I think it's the 5th palace. It makes the whole rest of the game a lot easier, and we'll talk about that as we get to it, but those are the 3 keys to this Legend of Zelda 2 walkthrough. Also, be careful not to get hit near the edge of a pit. If you fall in this water, it's instant death, so yeah, these bubbles, kind of frustrating. Just take your time, wait for an opening. And speaking of that fast start, we're gonna get you your first extra heart right here. And let's go to Blaze for more information on the items of Legend of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link.
All right, let's talk about some of the items you will find in Legend of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. So first we have the blue and the red magic replenishing potions right here. You'll see these kind of around after killing enemies. Sometimes you'll see them on their own. You can find them in hidden areas on the map, which we will show you throughout the course of this walkthrough. But the blue one refills a little bit of your magic. The red one tops you off. You can kind of use the red one to get a little bit extra magic out of the bag. And the professor's going to show you how to do that as we move forward. But once we get some spells, then we have the experience bag, which gives you different numbers of experience, which helps you level up. Obviously, very important. You have the heart, which fills up and gives you an extra meter of health on your overall health. Same thing with the magic jar, just for the magic, gives you an extra meter. And then, of course, the classic extra life.
All right, thank you, Blaze. We're in our first of the 7 palaces here. And an odd number, more ways than one. Watch out for these guys, little kangaroo fellas. They armored kangaroos with little capes. They will sap some of your experience, which is annoying. Got these little blobs here, kind of the Goombas of this game, I suppose. Skeleton's not too bad, just give a little duck here and stab. I should mention, this is very important. Obviously, you're using this as a Zelda 2 walkthrough. We are taking the most direct route through every single palace in this game. So follow the path we take exactly, and you will get through these palaces as quickly as possible with as little hassle as possible on top of it. No time wasted at all in this walkthrough. So you can jump over them. I find that more satisfying than stopping to stab them. Link doesn't have much of a vertical. Well, actually, I don't know. It's pretty impressive. He jumps higher than his head, so if we want to assume he's roughly 6 feet tall, that's better than the average NBA player. That's better than the world record holder, actually. But it's all relative, right? I mean, compared to the greatest video game jumper of all time, Jumpman himself, Mario, it's piss poor. But so we're due a level upgrade here, and I want to mention some people like to hold their points and prioritize some attack upgrades earlier on so you can deal more damage and then earn more experience. We're just going to go with the next available level up as they become available, but just want to mention that as an alternate strategy some people like to do. Not how we're going to be doing it here, but worth mentioning. We're going to head up right here. There's a ferry to the right, I believe, but you can save that until you need it. It's just to the right of the elevator right there. A word on the, got a key right here. A word on the experience. You'll notice we have leveled up our magic and our life so far. The amount that you need to level up to the next level, it varies between the different types, so you're sort of on a path. If you want to save up a bit more, you can hit cancel and then just say, hey, I want to wait and get my attack up instead, and you know, it'll save however many points you have, and you'll just have to add to that to get to the next one. But and there's a top off right there. We can use our shield, but it's not going to do much for us on this screen. Gives us a nice different look, I have to say. But yeah, we're going to lose this as soon as we leave the screen, unfortunately. Kind of a crock. But make sure you're whacking those dragon heads. A lot of times they'll hide those magic refilling flasks in them. So those dead smile expressions they have on these kangaroo pals. So we're still going to leave that ferry because we're going to come back this way. The boss would be down the elevator below us there, but we're going to backtrack just a bit to this elevator we passed the first time and get our first proper item of the game. They also hide flasks in those suits of armor, those knights statues. These guys will suck away your magic, so that's pretty frustrating, especially later when we rely a lot more on our magic. So let's be wary of them. You can kind of scroll them off the screen a little bit, as you can see right there. It's weird the way that they tend to get stuck. We want to move quickly on this bridge here. Every step will give away. I like to jump. Don't stop off, don't be greedy. It's Shigeru Miyamoto instilling a life lesson in you right there. You stop to get the money, you will die. I like to use my first shield here. We have a couple enemies en route to getting this first item. Just gotta find the sweet spot. With this guy who's throwing lots and lots of little maces or something. Just gotta survive till we get that ferry. We just want to make it interesting here on Video Games 101. And the bigger the enemy, or the more difficult the enemy, the more experience you'll get when they do drop one of those bags. And with the knight, we have two different techniques we can use on him. We can just move our shield up and down by ducking and getting stabs in, trying to get him off his mark. And that's one way. I prefer the jump, duck, and attack route right here. It keeps his shield moving as well, plus we get those attacks in, and I don't know, just, it's a bit more random in our pattern, so it kind of gets him off his mark. But we have our first item, the candle. Blaze, what do we got?
Alright, the candle lights up rooms that would otherwise be dark so that you can see the enemies. Very important, but also very easy to get early on in the game. There you go.
Straightforward enough. Yeah, just a passive thing. Dark rooms will now be lit up. And we're just going to backtrack now. So an important thing about managing your experience numbers over there on the right is that every time you beat the level, a palace, it will automatically top off your experience. So you don't want to beat a palace with, you know, just 10% of your next level to go. You want to make sure that bar is as empty as possible, because you're going to get that next level regardless. So beating the boss will generally get you, you know, 50, 100, 200 experience points. So in this case, I think we're okay. And there's that fairy I was talking about earlier. And now we can take this elevator down. So you might want to grind on some enemies before you face the boss if you're worried about it. I kind of like attacking these knights with a lower ceiling because we come back down quicker and just get more attacks in and have a higher success rate. So there we go, our attack's finally at level 2. 223 is not a bad, not some bad numbers to have here going into the first boss battle. We got Gary all warmed up over there. I think he's ready to go. We just have one more of these mace tossing guys to deal with. So we use our last key. Yeah, just gotta stay under the waterfall with them and be careful when they jump. Make sure you leave enough distance, otherwise they'll jump into you. We're getting very close to the almost having enough to get another level before we... Oh, there we go. And we get 200 since he was one of the bigger enemies, the tougher enemies. That's nice. If we killed a blob and got a pouch, we'd only get 50, I think, in that case. So this worked out pretty perfectly. All right, Gary, first boss.
It's Scary Gary's Boss Beaters.
Alright, the first of many bosses in The Adventure of Link, Zelda 2 Horsehead. Jump and move slightly to the right and stab, and then just move back, give yourself a little bit of room so you can get that timing right, that spacing. Repeat it over and over again. Shouldn't be too hard. Horsehead, not a difficult boss, as you'd expect for the first boss in Zelda 2.
All right, thank you, Gary. Good strategy. Pretty straightforward. So now we're going to top off that experience and get to the next level, bringing us to 3, 3, and 3. I shouldn't speak too soon. I don't know what the next level up is. Probably not attack. There you go. They're so stingy with attack. And again, you can delay your health level up right there if you want to save it for get the extra 100 points on your own. It's your call. I find going the organic, natural, linear path that they laid out for you, that works for me. Not a big deal, but as you can see, they turn on the lights now. We can see the enemies, don't have to just look for an outline anymore. Very handy. And now, we can head into this cave that's up above here. It's a lot easier to manage with the lights. There's a bit more to it than the average cave in this game. Watch out for the bats. Sometimes you just want to trigger them, get them moving one way or the other. Again, be very careful with projectiles, enemies at pits, all that bad stuff. Very difficult to get a no-death run in this game for that reason. You can handle the bosses without issue, follow our tips and everything, but yeah, it's just those pits. And this is just something we need to give to somebody in the next town. That's its only purpose, not a interesting item that we'll bring in blades for, but... So we're gonna head west now to the second village, now that we've stopped off and picked that up. And you can see those pits there make navigating that last cave a little more difficult if you don't have that candle. Alright, where are we this time? This is the town of Ruto. Raru and Ruto, those sound familiar. We'll talk about why a little bit later. Stop off at the sex worker there. Oh, and then we have the older magic-based sex worker. They always wear orange. And they'll top off your magic level. Come back anytime. Open door policy there. Door's closed, but still. Here's famous line right here. I am error. Fantastic. And we'll find his counterpart not too far from here. We'll have Fluff give us a fun fact about those guys once we get there. Again, we're looking for somebody who's either hanging out around side their house or comes out, opens the door, and starts pacing around their house. In this case, we talked to that lady. She said, "Oh, you found my statue. Come talk to my dad. He'll teach you another spell." So, we were just commenting earlier on how Mario was the king of jumping. Well, not so fast with the right magical spell. Link becomes a worthy opponent, actually. So that pathetic 6-foot vertical now becomes something like a 9 or 10-foot vertical, allowing us to gain access to areas we would not be able to otherwise, including the next area of the game as we head south down here through this cave. And then make sure that you did all that before you come through here. I'm pretty sure we need these. If not in this cave, then very shortly after. You'll notice that we have the little projectile shot from the sword like we had in the last game once we have full health. It doesn't look as cool. It looks like a nail in this game if you ask me. Like a toenail or a fingernail or something. Probably just a hangover from when I was a kid. Really would like to get that attack up. Best defense is a good offense, right? Yeah, these guys are a little tricky. You need to do a lot of multitasking with your brain there, turning around, blocking both sides, getting attacks off at the same time. The red bats will turn into fire-shooting monsters once they touch down, so you want to get close to them, compared to the blue ones, which just fly around, more of a nuisance. And here's that jump magic we'll need. At this point, it takes about half of our bar up, so that's why we want to get our magic level up with experience, so that we can, we got a fairy here, so that every spell utilizes less of our magic bar. Couple hidden things to find here in the swamp, and speaking of the swamp, you'll see on this screen there's birds coming in from the sky. These are infinitely respawning enemies. You have bugs that come in on a different screen. And if you have a turbo controller, I like the NES Max myself, if you weight down the attack button or tie a rubber band around it and stay on one side, you can basically use it as a bit of a hack for grinding out experience automatically as you walk away. I'm curious if anyone in this class has tried that technique. Let me know in the comments section as we check in with Error here. He's going to give us something so that we can cross the river down south, so we actually do need to talk to this guy. But, Fluff, what do you know about Error and Bagu?
Error and Bagu's names are a playful reference by the developers to errors and bugs in games. While Error's name translated properly in the Western version, the guy who was meant to be named Bug was translated as Bagu. But still, that's what it was meant to be a reference to.
Alright, good luck, Fluff. Developers having a bit of fun there. Alright, so we have a choice to make at this point in the game. Probably the only area where it splinters in terms of how you want to prioritize and strategize and where you want to go. At least as far as I'm concerned. So we can go to the next palace, which is straight west from here, and that's not a bad play. I think I'm going to move down south and instead grab the hammer, which is going to give us access to all the areas which were covered up with boulders so far, so we can grab a few more, you know, like another magic jar, maybe another heart, things like that to improve our chances moving forward in the next palace. So really it's a 50-50 your call what you want to do first. You can skip ahead if you want to see the next palace, but we're gonna head down south after we have that experience bag right there. And yeah, we're gonna head down to the bridge here into the next town. Very close to the next level. Probably wouldn't hurt for the area that's coming up. It's one of the hardest parts of the game, just in terms of where you are in your experience at the time. So that's why it's not the worst idea in the world if you want to go do the next palace before you do this one, so you can Probably get a couple extra levels under your belt to approach this next area, but it's your call. As we head right here, we'll grab a bag to top off our next level. There's our attack. That'll be very clutch in this next unforgiving stretch. Sort of a cavern maze with lots of dangerous enemies in order to get that hammer. But first we have another town. So we'll stop in here. Don't have to worry about the magic bags or the health or anything like that right now, because we're going to top all these off. There she is. I lost my mirror. Yeah, everybody wants something from this point in the game. Really the last town. They wanted us to get their statue back in that cave. This one's not too bad. You just come in this next house, duck at this table, hit B, and you'll find the mirror under the table. Admittedly, if you don't know what you're doing, that's probably really frustrating. And I don't know offhand how I discovered that the very first time. I don't know if that was a Nintendo Power type thing or just trial and error. Give her back her mirror. But very simple, very quick if you know what you're looking for. And we will get the next spell. I'll probably settle for one of the fighting moves next, but that's not going to happen. Very important spell, actually. I take it back. Life. It's going to take up virtually our entire bar at this point in the game. At 60 magic. You can see right there, that's how much it takes up. So you can only use it once, and it only gives you back maybe 3 bars of health, something like that, 3.5. So you need to make sure you use it wisely. Don't use it when you have near a full bar of health, obviously. So now we just have to look for the, here we go, the magic person. I'll stop referring to them as sex workers. I really don't know what they're doing in there. Just giving you a drink. Let's try to get more wholesome here in the second half of this first class on this Zelda 2 walkthrough. So now that we've seen Bagu, most popular guy in this area. I don't know, they went to college together or something. They were some sort of fraternity. They pledged together. Either way, he opens the bridge up for you. If you need to get back across, you just go in that hut and talk to the guy. He'll extend the bridge for you. Alright, so now this is one of the toughest stretches in the game. Follow our path right here. This is the most direct route to get through the caves. If you go the wrong way, it's a dead end most of the time, so it's not just the fastest route, sometimes it's the only route. You can see the same move that I like to use on the knights. It works very well on a lot of enemies in this game. Even when you don't need to move the enemy's attack, we're just going to go straight here. This is linear. It's kind of a defensive move a little bit, because you keep that shield moving up and down, so you can get a lot of extra blocks in that you wouldn't normally be able to. These guys, I'm just going to skip right past them. This whole area is about preserving as much health as possible to get through. And that's not going to do us any good. Some of the toughest enemies in the game are coming up. The orange and red looking guys, yeah, these guys. Need to get into a very good rhythm to stab these guys. That's the best strategy I can offer. Yeah, you could see why I loathe this area so much. It's just wall to wall. Toughest enemies in the game. It's hard to get a rhythm when you're having to duck there. You want to fight those guys on level ground. So now, we're going to go into this top right cavern. Yeah, there's a move, which we'll learn pretty soon, where we can bounce off of these enemies' heads. Which I absolutely love, but in the meantime, we need to take our time. be respectful of them, unfortunately. Always hate respecting my enemy. You can still drop in that hole and get that bag. Getting close to where we can justify using our healing spell. I'd say once we get to about 1.5 health, it'll be time to use it. Want to make sure those guys don't gang up on you, or their projectiles don't cover the screen. Stop and block them whenever they get a shot off. Alright, so we got a red thing right there. Might use jump here to avoid him entirely. And I don't think we have enough to use life. There's a little trick right there with the red. Sometimes you can get the red, pouch, as Blaze explained, the potion or whatever you want to call it. It tops off your mana. So if you pick it up and as it's filling up, if you use an expensive spell or any spell, you can get a little bit of extra juice out of it. You can kind of trick the game into thinking that you were on empty when really you weren't. So it's just something to keep in mind to get a little extra magic out of those red magic pouch potions in particular. Let's see if we can jump over. He kind of fades back, unfortunately. We're almost out. And depending on who's up ahead, we might use a shield, we might use some life. That's all we got room for in the tank. Just have to be very careful here with this guy. Mind the rhythm. There's plenty of time to get a shot in, but yeah, if you get greedy, you'll end up taking that shot. Don't need that red slime to get involved in this. You're good where you were, Goomba. Alright, got him just in time. You think he's gonna jump into me? Alright, I've got enough for a shield now at least. We're also very quietly coming up on another, this is the last one here, on another level up. Actually getting into a nice rhythm with taking them on the ground here. 5 hits will do it when you're level 3 attack. Yeah, this one's gonna want to jump. It's gonna be a mess right here. Keeps inching closer, fades away, then it jumps. One more should do it. There we go, we get a pouch. I was hoping for experience there. So let's get this life ready. And there you can see we use it and we get a little bit extra out of it. And then we get another red pouch right here. Alright, more magic than we know what to do with at this point. And finally clear, so this is the final stretch, the hardest stretch. Once again, this is not a linear path, so follow along for the shortest route. You might want to pop a shield on right here, because these guys that throw the axes actually aren't that bad when you get into a nice rhythm compared to the orange guys. I mean, none of them are all that bad, but just, compared to other enemies, they are a step up. We're very close to that next level, so this will probably be a magic, I'm thinking. So, we'll probably get this life spell going here, just to top ourselves off. And there we go, we'll get our magic back by leveling up there. You can kind of see the pattern those generally take. Yeah, shield there wouldn't have been a bad idea either, but that's alright. So we'll take the elevator down, we're going to head to the right. Plenty of these guys. Just make sure you have enough clearance, headroom here to deal with this guy, but that's the pattern. Just jump, move a little bit in, and stab. And it takes 6 hits when we're a 3, so just a bit more than the orange guy. You'll notice that the orange guys give you 150 experience points, whereas the red guys just give you a pathetic 100. I like grinding on those guys a little bit later on in the game. Strange sentence, but still true. They probably the best enemies for... Oh, they only give you 70 here. My mistake, actually. I'm getting them mixed up with the other orange and red creatures. Actually, the red ones are blue. I'm just getting completely confused. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Blaze? Alright, the hammer allows you to break bricks, or giant boulders, I should say, and clear out trees. So you can reveal hidden areas in some cases, and otherwise just access other parts of the map you wouldn't be able to otherwise. Thank you, Blaze. Yeah, not to be confused with a power-up we get later, which destroys bricks in the palace levels, but this is for use on the outer world. So now we're just going to leave the way we came in. You can head to the left to get a red pouch to top off your magic if you like. But in the meantime, while we're leaving, let's get another Fluff fact on this game from Fluff.
Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link is the sore thumb in the Legend of Zelda series for a few reasons. Most notably, it is the sole side-scrolling platform game in the series, and it's rare for being a game where Link can actively jump, and progress is based largely on experience points. The main reason for the lack of resemblance to the previous, as well as subsequent Zelda games, was that, initially, the game was developed by Shigeru Miyamoto to have little or no connection to the Zelda universe. It was going to be a distant spin-off until near the end of the development cycle, the story of a 16-year-old Link out to collect a Triforce piece from the Great Palace and awaken Zelda was attached to the game.
So this kind of shoehorned the whole Zelda concept into something they had already built. That's interesting. Thank you very much, Fluff. Yeah, that would explain why this looks nothing like any of the other games, why you can jump in this game where you couldn't really do that in any other Zelda game. Not actively, at least, for the most part. A lot of times if you run off a cliff or something, and, you know, some of the later ones, he'll do that little hop, but we're certainly not in control of that. Have we gotten Link back? I have so many questions for him. He's a surprisingly sensitive guy. Anyway, let's knock that boulder out. And there's some more magic for us. There's 2 more to be found. We can top off each of our bars at 8. So now we just take the shortcut out of here. Thankfully, we don't have to go through that maze that we used to get in the first place. And more than that, we're just much better equipped to take on the next palace, the second palace. Picked up another level in the process, so it's like, you know, when do you want to kind of slum it a little bit, struggle without the experience and the extra, the beefiness. I like doing it this way because, like I said, we're going to be able to, we already picked up that 1 magic jar. We can pick up at least another heart by knocking all the boulders out of the way that we have access to at this point. So heading back out this way is going to put us in the graveyard, essentially, where we have to use our new hammer to get back to the area we came from, for the most part. You know, the western part of that western continent. The overworld is made up of 2 islands, or 2 continents, essentially. The western being the first one, the easier one. I think we have another one of these guys. We're getting close on that next level, actually, as I'm playing a bit too loose with this guy, and we cannot block those axes, in case you were wondering. Alright, there's another 200 or so experience to go. Could turn back around and fight another one of those guys or 2, but I'll quit while I'm ahead. If we come down here, there's a 1-up hidden, I think just up and to the left of where we are, in one of these squares. Little Funko version of Link with another 1-up there. There we go. He's so happy picking that up. Alright, so now we're going to head north and backtrack through the boulder. Actually, if you want to make it really easy, you could head east to the next town, and if you use the jump spell, which we'll show you a bit later, once we get there, you can access at the church, you can access the upper level, and in there will be a weapons master, and he'll teach you the downstroke. So yeah, if you really want to make that second palace super easy, but I don't think we need it. I think we're good with all these upgrades we're going to have here. So the first stop is going to be this cave right here. Gonna be a heart at the end of it. That's why I'm playing a little bit loose with our health. Very loose with our health, actually. That was almost disastrous. Thankfully, it's just one screen over. That'll top us off, give us 6 health bars. Yes, once again, to do the math, there are 4 magic jars and 4 hearts scattered throughout this world. The only way to beat those guys is when you have that down slash I was referring to. Probably noticed that blocked cave in the marsh when we came in, so we'll head back there. Guess having a field day with our new hammer. We love so much. So close to that next level up. Probably top our health off. Can't buy those 3 points. There we go. Alright, so it's health. I think I'm going to hold off for the attack level up. I think I would rather have attack for the next palace. So now we're just another 200 away from getting that attack up. I don't know what they have against us having all the same stats at the same time, outside of 1 and 8, the maximum. Actually, I'm told Fluff has more information on the leveling system in this game. Shed some light on this. Fluff, what do you got?
I mentioned earlier about how this game was the only one to feature experience points as a leveling up mechanism. In the Western International version of the game, the 3 stats cost different amounts for each upgrade. While you can put off spending your upgrade points to level up a stat and save them until you have enough points for the next stat, the game encouraged a more static progression as players would often choose the option which was ready. This is in contrast to the Japanese version, where every stat upgrade of a certain level cost the same between the 3, meaning players could create a more offensive or defensive-minded Link to adhere to their own choice of play style, encouraging a more customized approach. Also, level-ups were much more affordable in the Japanese version, as the final tier of upgrades cost only 3,000 points, as opposed to the 8,000 in the American version.
I feel like ever since I said how much easier the Western versions of games were over their Japanese counterparts on average a few classes ago, I've just been reminded time and time again of examples arguing the opposite. But there you go, anyway. Alright, so we're finally going to head back to the next palace, right here. And there's a couple hidden areas around here. We're gonna get this next level. Probably before we get into fight, or to begin the next dungeon. One more will probably do it. Come down here, you will find a red pouch to top off your magic, so we can use that. And there we go, we almost maxed out our magic at the end of that. Just give me this last one. 2 of these guys will get it done. Alright. Finally on level ground. Developers of the American version be damned. Alright, so remember one of the Briggs notes earlier, the second one. Use the magic replenishing trick in these palaces. So it's 50-50 from here on out when you go to these palaces, that once you first enter it and you hit that statue, it'll either be a red magic replenishment item, or it'll be a knight who comes to life and tries to fight you. If it's the knight, just leave, come back, and do it again. And this is a great way, when you're midway through the dungeon or the palace, You know, a lot of times they put the entrance kind of in the middle of the palace overall. You know, you take the elevator down, you have a split. A lot of times, you know, you can get midway through the palace, then leave, do that trick to replenish your magic and heal yourself up. Just do it over and over again, and then come right back in and just pick up where you left off. You'll still have all the keys and everything. You'll obviously have any items that you picked up. The enemies will all be back, but you won't have to go through the whole palace this time. So, it's a very effective way to shave off some of the difficulty of the palaces specifically, which is, you know, arguably the hardest part of the games. So, you'll see we'll be doing this quite a bit. And once again, we're taking the most direct route. Here in Palace number 2. Have to go all the way to the edge here. We still can't break these bricks. We'll get an item before too long, which will help us with that. Alright, so we've added some platforms, but there's still a gap in his throwing patterns. You can see he's taking a lot less hits now that we have the upgrade to our attack, or that we're level 4. Certainly worth it. They're all worth it, but, you know, you feel that one. In every stab. And they certainly do. The enemies, that is. You can barely make these top jumps if you hit it just right, by the way. Just really pressure down that jump button, keep it on, and just make sure you jump right at the lip. Right at the edge, that's the best way to... Sometimes you need to hit some of those tricky jumps. Save you from taking some damage without having to resort to the jump spell. So now we're going to ride the elevator all the way up. I don't think there's anything over on this side. I think it's a dead end. Yeah, with no fairies or anything. So we're going to ride this all the way to the top. And if you need to top off your health, you can leave, or your magic, you can leave with that trick. Otherwise, get off on this floor and head to the left. This is just one floor below the top level, where we first came in. We've got a big stretch going all the way to the left, and we have our first of these guys. Very frustrating enemies that are made a lot less frustrating once we have the down slash. If anything, you want to keep them bunched up together so that you can jump over them. If you kill them, it takes them away for a while before they respawn. In some cases, it's a finite amount of guys, so it's just something to keep in mind, be aware of. Not messing with any jelly at the edge of these lava pits. Obviously, you'll see that the blue ones drop out. Little gelatin monsters. Still using that same move, the jump, stab, and kind of fade away. I want to mention, some people swear by jumping and then stabbing, and as you're coming down, hitting them in the head. If you just kind of line it up, time it just right, it's pretty reliable for hitting these knights, these iron knuckles in the heads. But I want to mention that, and these bubbles can be killed too. These skulls trapped in what, I don't know what their situation is, but the bubbles, as we get some magic right there restocked. But yeah, if you put enough hits into those bubbles, you can take them down eventually. It's just, if your attack's not high enough, it can take a very long time, so. Alright. Level 5 life. So we'll get our next item by heading all the way to the left here. It's something we have been referencing. As we'll use our shield now that it costs just about 1 bar. It's important to get a grasp on how much magic each spell takes as you keep leveling up, so that you know how much you can budget and all that fun stuff. You might be thinking, how are we going to get back that way? We just had a cave-in. Well, aside from the fact that that disappears every time you leave the screen, more importantly, We'll have a very important item coming here once we reach the edge. It's very satisfying when you make contact with those guys. Cheap shot, stabbing us while we're unlocking the door, man. I have to say. Expect better for one of Ganondorf's people. Alright, got us the power glove. Blaze.
Alright, the glove, the gauntlet, allows you to break bricks which you wouldn't normally be able to break in the dungeon level. So you can use this to get through areas or even climb up in some of those areas where they're dropping the bricks on you. Very useful item.
Much more useful than the actual power glove, I might add. Which is kind of a piece of garbage. It's so bad, I say unironically. It really is bad. But I digress. Head back this way. All the way down. These guys aren't too bad, the eyeballs. It's just sort of depends on what you have going around you. It's not hard to avoid the fire on their own. A lot of times when you know you have a big stretch of like multiple knights or just challenging enemies, sometimes it's like, hey, maybe it's worth more for me to burn one bar on a shield than taking the damage. The extra damage, I should say. We're in a crossfire right here. Our shield will block this, it's just threading that needle. So now we can knock these blocks out of the way. Kind of in a frustrating position right here, having halfway to my next level, and I'm not sure I'm going to pick up enough experience before we finish this palace. Unfortunately. So forget that elevator for now. We're going to head all the way to the right to grab ourselves a key. And they cycle in some old enemies for, I don't know, maybe they have a union quota or something, I'm not sure. I'm sure Ganon's a fair employer, I don't know. Another bouncing guy made a bit more difficult with that ledge there, but not too bad. Just force him against the wall and beat the crap out of him. Now we can hit that elevator we just skipped. Sometimes things are hidden at the bottom of the brick pits. Whether you can see them or not, sometimes they'll stash a point sack down there or something. Again, that's one you could probably get if you had the down slash, but I'm not going to sweat it. A little disappointed, given my my point count at the moment. Starting to get a little concerned about our health here. Got the boss upcoming. I know we got Gary's tips to fall back on, but we're just so close to that 1200. See how much the boss gives us. Oh, that's 200 right there. I was thinking if there's going to be anyone to... No, I'm sure the boss will give me enough. Might even be one more. Well, one more of these guys. Just burn the shield. Use the last one we have on the boss themselves. Actually, I guess we'll be getting a magic level up next, so never mind. There we go. Alright, so now we can heal up and probably apply a shield before the next boss, who is right around the corner here. So let's throw it to Gary. Gary, who we got?
Boss beaters. Alright, Helmethead. Jump and move slightly to the right and stab. It's similar to the last boss we fought, but a nice rule is to keep 2 to 3 lengths between you and the boss. to block his shots with your shield. And then once his heads are starting to fly around, you want to get a little bit more aggressive. Just go in, do more attacks than you do defensive moves just to put him away before it gets too crazy with all the projectiles on the screen.
Thank you, Gary. Yes, and 200 from taking him down, so either way we would have been covered. Now we get that next level up, which is going to be health again, knowing the order they go in. Also tops everything off, so that's nice. And there's our health. You'll notice they don't give you any extra, even though they kind of owe us an extra 200 that we just got from the boss, but I guess they figure they don't owe us anything. Ganon certainly doesn't, at least. Alright, so now we can head back to the graveyard area. To the east, to avoid as many of these annoying battles as possible. You'll see if we hit an enemy who spawned off of the path and they hit us on the path, no one's there. It's just a false alarm. Alright, so now we can finally head to this town. So we got that medicine. And this is the town of, the harbor town, excuse me, of Mido. Mido. Anyway, if we need to top anything off, we can stop off at the workers. Yeah, let's talk to this guy. He's not going to tell us anything, but let's see what he says. Ask Error of Ruto about the palace. Well, that sounds like a big old waste of time. Sounds like that would be the error, pun intended. Look at that little guy, little kid. Just give him a look. Alright, so we can use our jump right here. This is the church I was referencing earlier. Only way to get up there is with the jump. And most folks in the harbor town of Mido don't have the vertical abilities of Link. So this guy appreciates the company, and he'll give us a free tip right here. When you jump, press downward to stab. Breaking the fourth wall a little bit, but it's definitely worth it for this move. As he says. And he says, I can't help you anymore. Spent my entire life learning that one move, and this is awkward now, please leave. But that's the move right there. Looks cool. Gets results. I use it more of as like a utilitarian thing than a actual attack move. You can use it to escape a lot of damage, bounce off of enemies' heads, whether you do damage to them or not. Some enemies you can hurt by jumping on their heads, others not so much, but it's a good way to avoid getting any damage taken. And yeah, that's what we got in that cave that was surrounded by the marsh area. The Water of Life. Which we will now give to, I guess he gave it to a sick child or something. Everyone always just seems to disappear once we go in the house. I'm not sure how that works. It's just us and the wizard who's given us our next spell. In this case, it is the fairy spell. It's one of those spells that it's just put in the game that's like a mechanic you'll use like once or twice. Kind of cool, but it sucks up a lot of magic, and I don't know, it's fine. We don't get any health for it. We don't get to guide another Hylian or anything like that. But anyway, let's get out of here. We're going to head into the graveyard now. We can't cross the ocean until we have some sort of method of transportation. The down slash is very good for jumping over those eyeballs I have found. Just kind of riding them. Let's go to the center grave marking, and you'll learn this is King's Tomb. You don't need to come here, but we try to give you the full experience here. But just go straight south from King's Tomb, and you'll drop down into this pit. And now it's time to use that fairy spell. Unfortunately, we can't get that now that we're a fairy. We can't do anything as a fairy except to fly around, access places that even our jump can't take us. And then we're back to regular Link on the next screen. I would have liked to have seen that change back. You can head back to the left if there was an item. In some cases, they put an item that you pass when you're flying by, but that's a nice example of how you want to use the down thrust spell, or technique, I should say. And very quickly now, we're ready to knock out our next palace. Let's do that trick again. Again, 50-50 that it's going to be a bad guy, but we've been lucky so far. This palace is relatively linear, so as you're following along here, let's go to Fluff to tell us a bit more about the spell we just got. Fluff?
We just got the fairy spell, and there's a few glitchy things you can do with this spell aside from the obvious ability to fly. Most notably, you can fly through locked doors without having or spending a key. You can even get into the Great Palace earlier than otherwise possible if used correctly. You can also access otherwise inaccessible areas by casting the spell to turn into a fairy while jumping above the top of the screen, which causes Link to be transported to another area, sometimes after a fall animation, sometimes screwing up the camera, and transporting Link to some very random areas. Lastly, if you use the fairy spell during your Shadow Link battle at the end of the game, Shadow Link will disappear from the screen, but he'll still be able to hurt you if you fly into the right or wrong spot.
Good call, Fluff. Thank you very much. Mind the key right there, but yeah, I guess I've been sleeping on the fairy spell, at least what I thought I could do. This is a good example of how, when you have the speed, the momentum, you can make one of these jumps. You just don't want to, they kind of bait you in the down thrusting, so you'll knock out bricks to kill those guys, but you can make that jump if you hit it with enough speed, but now we need to use our jump move, unfortunately. Hate to eat into our magic count. So we're just going straight all the way to the right so we can get our first key. And you can see I'm ignoring a lot of the enemies because I'm just looking at my experience point count on this level. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm not going to hit that 2,000 before we get to the boss. So let's never mind that. These guys are frustrating. They just keep coming. Disembodied wolf heads. Note that if you just knock this guy into the lava, you don't actually kill him, he will come back when you head back the other way. He'll reappear. Whereas if you kill him, then he's gone for good. So it's just easier to kill him on your way through the first time. And more low ceilings makes this move practically unbeatable. Alright, these are some of the toughest enemies in the game. I almost always pop a shield when I see one. If I can, generally I'll just try to get by him with the down thrust move. We'll show how we can use it to get around and as more of a defensive move here. Just make sure we give ourselves enough room so that we're not going to hit the ceiling on this side when we bounce over him or try to bounce over him. And now we have the next item. Pretty obvious, but Blaze?
Alright, the raft allows Link to cross the sea to the other continent. Other than that, no purpose for it, but you need it to get to the second half of the game.
Thank you, Blaze. Yep, we do the same trick to get past that guy to get out. And this Red Knight should still be gone because we actually killed him, didn't just knock him into the lava, which apparently not a death in his case. Certainly is in our case. Just gotta practice patience with the jelly enemies, the little blobs. These guys are frustrating. They'll just keep coming in some cases. I thought there was a limit of 2, generally, but sometimes I think the game kind of glitches out a bit. You can actually do that down thrust in kind of close quarters to cheat the game a little bit and end up bouncing on their heads even when you're kind of at level height with them. So you kind of bounce through them without taking any damage. Still don't think we're going to hit that 2,000, but I could be wrong. So we're going to head all the way to the left here. And we got a key to pick up in the very far end of this, which we'll need to burrow down into to grab. It could also come in from the left, but you have these never-ending enemies popping in, so it's sort of pick your poison here, since we don't have the up thrust to get out. But while I contemplate the dungeon I've trapped myself in here, let's bring in Fluff to tell us a fun fact about the map here in Zelda 2.
Similar to A Link to the Past, there's a section of the overworld map which is meant to represent the entirety of the original Legend of Zelda map here in Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Specifically, if you look at the southwest corner of the map we visited earlier, you'll find a rough scaling of the entire Legend of Zelda map, with the Lost Forest in the southwest, the Graveyard northwest to it, the mountains and specifically the Twin Peak Spectacle Rocks northeast of that, and Lake Hylia and the sea farther south and east. It wasn't explicitly acknowledged back in the day, but it's clear that Nintendo was fond of fun little nods to their previous work, even in the late 80s, and Zelda 2 is no exception.
Good call, Fluff. Can't help but notice how much faster Link moves around that part of the map now, but as we carry on in this palace. What a grandiose term, calling this a palace. I know they put some, curtains up in some parts, but I don't know. It's a bit more dungeon-like, if you ask me. Just bounce over that guy's head. You want to head up here, and then just take out the right side so we don't have to deal with that blue knight. Just do the lower thrusts right there, and you'll go right through them when there's no room to jump. Alright, got our next boss, Gary.
Boss beaters.
Alright, Rebonack. Use down thrusts on the front half of him to do the damage. Stay away from the back half of the horse, but once the horse is gone and he dismounts, use the crouch jumping attacks to stay ahead of his defense and get those hits in. You can also try just sticking with his moves and dodging up and down, or I should say blocking up and down, but I find it's much more effective to be aggressive with this boss, just going with those crouch jumps to get around his shield and take him down. Good luck.
Yeah, this is a marathon, not a sprint with this guy. Just want to focus on getting those reliable shots in. And we just finish him off there. Now he's just another one of these guys, like Gary said, and you can kind of see in real time how much damage we're generally doing to him. But yeah, that's how tough these guys are. They respect them enough to make them a legitimate boss in this game, albeit with a horsey companion, or a fake-me-out horsey companion. Still having trouble with him. Just forcing him off to the left, or the right there, off screen. Just one more hit, there we go. Jeez. Probably worth 200, 300. So we're going up 100 every single time. And now we'll top off our experience to get our next level up, which should be attacking this time, actually. Yeah, because we're 2 back in the attack department versus life. That's a nice thing about the Japanese version, like Fluff mentioned, is that it's just set points for every single level, for whichever skill you want to level up. So you can more choose your own way that you want to develop your Link, rather than kind of feels like we're being herded through a very specific build in this case, but that's fine. And do we have him back? Do we have Link back? Once again, I am thrilled to introduce the hero of the Hylians, the hero of Hyrule, and the king of the Kokiri, even though he's not one himself. Our guest TA for the day, Link. Welcome back, Link. Glad to have you.
I'm cautiously happy to be here.
No, this will be fun, and it's great to have your expertise here in the second half of the game, the hardest half, obviously, as we're gonna take our new raft that we found and cross the sea here to the eastern continent. Never to return. You have no more business on that western continent. But anyway, so just follow along. Nothing too crazy here. We're gonna head to the next town and get the next magic spell, which is kind of a bummer, actually. Kind of a, I don't know. Link, I'll ask you. You could be the judge. Do you enjoy firing fireballs out of your sword?
Honestly, Professor, as much as I love Shigeru and the team, it kind of felt like they had run out of ideas. I mean, fireballs out of my sword already fires projectiles. That's my whole thing.
Yeah, we're probably not going to use it, but here we are in the town of Nabooru.
Nabooru! It's phonetic!
Alright, well anyway, so sometimes I just like to heal myself if we can top ourselves off and then see the medicine person here. What happens since I got you here, Link? What happens behind those doors?
That's between me and the wise man.
Understood. So in this case, we're gonna stop off at this fountain here and duck down and hit B. and you'll get some water. I don't know why it says want to get some. You definitely get some. We're going to take it to this lady here who's dressed like the lady who heals you. But she's someone who's going to invite you in. And in this case, we're going to get our next spell. The one we were just referencing. So don't get too excited. This magic will make your sword shoot fire. It sounds amazing. It's very underwhelming. But anyway, yeah, use that if you like. I don't think there's a single boss that we actually need to use this on, or better said, maybe can use this on. But anyway, Link, I was curious. I was going to ask you this before you took off last time, but I was curious what you thought if you saw our ad for the Let's Play with Brigands School of Gifted Hylians that we ran in our walkthrough for the first Zelda game. URL, let's just say, in the description. But yeah, I was curious what you thought about that.
I think you used my likeness, and I didn't even see a single rupee out of it.
Oh, it's for the kids, though.
And what, kids don't have rupees? I had 99 when I was their age. Hell, I would have had more if it weren't for those stupid adult wallet laws.
No, I agree with you. It's an antiquated law. They should change it. But anyway, Link, let's play while we got you a very fun regular segment we do on this channel called What Would You Say? And it's just a great way that we can get inside the minds of our guests and just get an idea of how they would react in certain situations. Are you up for it?
I don't know. I've never heard of it. You don't even seem to have an intro for it, and I don't remember Mario doing it.
No, it was in there. It was in the middle.
Oh, okay then. Let's do it.
All right, it's very simple. I just give you a scenario, and then you just honestly answer and say what you would say in that situation. So here we go. All right, first one. What would you say if you had just worked hard, fought your way through a palace or a castle, and someone said to you at the very end of it, "I'm sorry, but our princess is in another castle"?
I say you bring that princess back right now. Linky tie-tie.
This is already going amazingly. All right, next one. Someone says to you, "A winner is you."
I say take a grammar class, bro.
Fair. I feel like we can skip the I feel asleep one now. Where'd you put that kid, by the way, after you picked him up?
Don't ask awkward questions, Professor.
Okay. I drink to prepare for a fight. Tonight I am very prepared.
You sound like an alcoholic.
Can't argue with that. Okay. It's a secret to everybody.
What the does that even mean?
All right, last one. You're in a dungeon and the chest with the master key is just through a very narrow corridor. And you go get it, but the daughter of a monarch is standing right in your way. What do you say?
That's easy. Excuse me, princess. What? Don't call me for Link to the Past.
Worth it. Anyway, so we're headed east to west now that we got that child from the island area, or the area beyond the bridge there. You need the child before you come to this town over here so that you can get another spell, which we'll actually need in that palace to beat the next boss. So this one is actually important. Let's make sure we do that first. This is going to be probably the most valuable town overall, if you want to think of it like that. Only in the sense that we're going to get a spell that's actually useful, and we're going to get a sweet maneuver for up-slashing. It's kind of tucked away, but we'll show you how to get there. Just using the ferry here since we're about to hit town anyway and get our numbers topped off. This is the mountain town of Darunia. Hopefully I'm saying that right. So first thing we're going to need is the jump spell. I don't think it's here, but I'll check. I think it might be on the next screen actually. Just all the mountain towns around here, they all have chimneys, so it's a bit misleading as to which one we need to jump in ultimately. It's more of a hike to get to the one with the weapons, or the fighting master. Can't jump up there. Here we go. So now we can work left to right from the smallest house, which we can actually jump on. And then duck down the chimney Santa Claus style. Amazing shin and leg durability. And knees. Probably why Link never jumped again for a very long time, at the very least, after this. Too much stress on the joints there, but now when we jump, press up to stab. So we have the up and the down. We're deadly in all directions. It's not quite as useful as the down stab because it's always nice to be able to cushion your fall. If you're about to fall on an enemy's head, save yourself some damage, but we can use this to find some hidden magic jars, and, well, not magic jars, but, you know, the ones that just refill your magic. And we're looking for this person, actually. You are a hero for saving my child. Grandchild seems more like it, but anyway, we're not here to judge or make assumptions. Just come down into this basement, talk to the mage, the wise man, and we will get magic to strengthen a shield. Really, it's reflect. They make it sound like it's more of a, we're beefing up our defense or something, but it's just reflect. And note that it will only, it only reflects certain things that enemies fire at you. Particularly what the wizards launch at you in this game. Head back and top off our magic here. Before we make the long walk back to that island where we found the child. While we're backtracking, I want to mention the fire spell isn't completely useless. I mean, it's good against the enemies, like the Tektites, the Zoras, basically the enemies which have a hardened shell which your normal attacks can't penetrate. You get that kind of high-pitched sound that shows that it's being deflected. The fire can work well in those cases, but just wanted to mention that. You can use your fairy here if you want. Doesn't really matter if you have any magic. Once you get to the palace out there. I don't want to call it the Island Palace because there's literally the palace after this one is called the Island Palace, but forget the proper name of the palace. It's probably in the description of this video at the time of your viewing this. Whatever the proper name is, but just mind the water. Don't want to throw away a life in an easy, relatively easy section like this. The upstabbing is good for these eyeballs sometimes, and creatures that drop in from the sky. At the very least, it'll stun them, even if it won't kill them. Not so much those guys. Those guys have a shell that you can't penetrate. Alright, so there's a set course that we can take to avoid pretty much any fights. There's some hidden gaps here and there where we have encounters, so just follow this exact path. And you should be able to make it through. It's one of the longest ways around, but not only that, we can find ourselves an extra mana jar. So there we go, we're only one away from having a full complement of mana. Just need to work on that level a bit so we can make our magic work harder for us. And just trace the same path. We do have this one. I guess we can't get around this one necessarily, but this is the path of least resistance for the most part. Those guys are just fun to bounce off of because they got the armored plating or what have you. So if we go to the left here, we can avoid another encounter, but I'm going to go right here just because there is a red magical bar refiller this way. So this is totally optional. But at this point, I would like to go in with as much health and all that as possible, so why not? Why not show it? Sort of bounce over our heads sometimes. They have a pretty decent vertical, and then they catch up to you, and the whole plan goes to crap, and we're pretty much right where we started with. But there's a red jar there, just so you know. So now we're going to go all the way up, all the way left, and then around. And this will ensure that we avoid any more encounters, and we'll be right in the fourth palace. Alright, headed into the fourth palace overall now. And there we go, we got our first, I think that was our first knight coming after us. We're just gonna rinse and repeat until we get some magic so we can cast heal on ourselves. Not only is it good like midway through a palace, obviously you can also use this as a quick way to, well, not the quickest way, but a half decent way to get some experience points if you're very close to a level perhaps. Used that a bit prematurely there, wasn't thinking, but yeah, it's a good way to replenish your health if you've taken a lot of damage just getting to the palace, or, like I've said before, if you need to duck back out for a bit after you've made some progress, you know, ideally after you've maybe gotten some keys or gotten the item of the palace, because a lot of times they'll send you in one complete different direction to get the prize of the palace. The palace prize. No one's ever called it that ever. Getting paid though here. Certainly gonna be getting another level before we take on the next boss. So we're gonna head right from this elevator here en route to getting the item in this palace. You gotta make it right at the edge. You can make that jump. If you're not confident in that, you might want to use your jump spell, but just bounce off the head of that guy. We have another instance where we've got a very poorly placed enemy right here, and if we knock him in the lava, he'll be back on the return trip because we are coming back this way, so I would rather just kill him that way, bounce on his head. That really is just the best move in this game. And we got another, nice, another 50-50 right there in that knight. So I misspoke, that guy would not still be here if I knocked him into the lava because we're not returning to this screen from the right, you know, so. Oof, that was close. That little kangaroo just jumped off the cliff as well. And we're gonna drop down one floor and just hug hard right here. That guy, just annoying enough when he doubles up with this other guy. Definitely going to want to use a shield here. It's just kind of a run-on of lots of different enemies. Little gauntlet of fancy enemies around this point of the palace. Let's draw him out. Make sure we give ourselves a lot of headroom here. This is as far as he's going to come. All right, there we go. So we'll back him up. Bounce off the head. And there we go. And now we have our boots, Blaze.
Alright, the boots, in addition to being stylish and making Link look all sassy, it allows you to walk on water in some areas, grab an extra heart, access a dungeon you wouldn't be able to get to otherwise, but there you go, the boots.
Yeah, we're looking extra sassy. I like that look. Even though we look exactly the same, but still. Kind of reminds me of the boots that were on the featured in that film, Kinky Boots. Now it looks more like the ones that we're wearing once we go with the shield. Yeah, just take some damage here. Since I'm not trying to do the entire palace in one go, we can be a bit more liberal with our magic usage here. Get a few more points. See what our next level up is going to be at this point. I guess it's going to be magic, it's looking like. And they're not hiding anything in that one. We can't get this guy down below. Drop down. There you go. Yeah, hang out down there. It's a good place for you to be. And then it's interesting when they add in enemies that weren't here when we first dropped in. It's kind of glitched out. Or maybe it's because we came in from the top or whatever. But few of these guys. We can use our reflect spell if we want to get some points here. Use the upward stab. So we'll see now that we have the upward stab if this area is a little more manageable. Sometimes I can't picture it in my head until I actually see it here. Best bet might just be They just keep appearing one after another. And you have to get into some strange rhythms depending on how far apart they're staggered. So now we have probably the easiest way to get out of here. It's probably the safest way to take as little damage as possible. Just come in from the left and give yourself a quick exit, and then just head back up top the way you came in. Feel bad for anyone who just tries to go all the way on the bottom the entire stretch, left to right or right to left. And now that you have the upstab though, you should always check the little gargoyles and dragon heads and wolf heads and whatnot. Now that we can hit them without having to use jump spell or anything like that. See if they have a little magic refiller for us. Speaking of magic refilling, at this point we can just play a bit looser since we're going to head back to the start. Maybe take out a couple of these mages. Add to our experience total here. Got to be up pretty close to... Oh, that works out. Let's see if we can life up here. There's 4 magic users on every screen. I don't know why they're not appearing. We're pretty much topped off now, so I guess we'll just keep on the course that we're on right now without going back. At the very least, we can unlock a bit more here, so we won't have to come get this key next time. Just kind of playing it by ear, seeing how much health we have left, and playing accordingly. Probably don't want to show up to the boss with very little health. This is where the higher jump is a bit of a liability when we're trying to use it as a offensive maneuver on some of these baddies. Probably don't even need that sack at this point. But since I don't see any of those wolf heads, no harm. Get this key. Can't wait till we get the skeleton key, making the rest of these keys redundant. And we'll get our magic up right here. Honestly, let's try to life up as much as possible here. Annoying thing about getting the magic level up is that it doesn't slowly fill up the bar, like getting one of those red potions would. So you can't kind of take advantage and glitch out with the trick that I like to use there. I admire them for still throwing these level 1 baddies at us. Thinking that's gonna gum us up. So I don't think being down 2 health bars at this point is worth it to turn tail and leave. Let's just progress forward here. Always gotta be very mindful when you're working with lava, especially, when you've got these dragon heads coming in. If you can get 2 on the screen in front of you, then that ensures that no more are going to warp in. So, alright, so this will... There we go, we're all topped off now. Jeez. Getting some tough angles. Make sure you're always going with the down slash. You can see how it literally saved our life there. We would have taken damage from the dragon head once we touched down, would have hit our shoe, our fancy new boots, and would have knocked us into the lava had we not done the bounce maneuver. So, very clutch. And continuing on with the most direct route. Shouldn't be too far now. Just enough keys. Those smiling little columns. I assume we're meant to see a little face, and it looks like you see like a couple teeth at the bottom, a couple eyes, and a little mouth. So we don't need to kill this guy experience points wise. And he kind of did a fair amount of damage on us. Probably should have used the shield coming through here with a couple of these guys, but it's like, do you want to bet on yourself? Wasn't too bad. Alright, so we have Probably the easiest boss in this game up next, but let's throw it to Gary.
Boss beaters.
Carock. Very easy. Just cast Reflect and then crouch in either corner of the screen, facing to the middle, and just keep blocking his shots. He'll be dead before you know it.
It's the lazy man's boss. Love it. All you gotta do is take a knee. Victory formation right there. 300 points for that one. Maybe it's going up 50 every time, I don't know. I'm not really paying that close attention, but I know we have enough for our next level, which is going to be health, probably, again. If they're going to keep on, yep, with the system they have, the all over the place system. But anyway, so now we can take this lovely shortcut of using our new kinky boots and just going right across the ocean here. Well, to that point. And now, actually, we can walk in certain parts of the water. Just gotta know where it is. A little trial and error. And not only are we going to have a shortcut back to the main area down to the south, but we just keep hanging right here. And then up a bit, and then all the way to the right. There's the next palace, but also hidden here on the map. And we can make this jump. We don't need the spell. There it is. We have 7 health bars now to match our 7 magic bars. Fantastic. We can actually get back, yeah, this way. Just head on right into the next palace. And I think this is the exception late in the game, yeah, where we do not have the magic flask, unfortunately. But that's why you got this Zelda 2 walkthrough. Just stick with us here, as we've gone probably the ugliest color of any palace we've encountered so far. You can see that life level 7 now working for us, as our defense is at an all-time high. Need to use the fairy here, unfortunately. It just feels like a waste of MP at the expense of progressing here, but that's the whole idea. So now that we're back with our 2 feet, we're going to head back to the left, because you can't get that key when you are a fairy. Don't want to lose any more magic than we need to, so watch out for the floating skulls. See, they're throwing a lot more obstacles in at you at this point in the game. If you time that, or if I had timed that, could have picked that up, but again, we certainly don't want to have our first death come at the expense of greed. We'll just skip over these guys, really doesn't matter. The levels that we have at this point are very serviceable for where we are at this point in the game, and as soon as we finish this palace, we're going to take you to what I like to call probably my favorite place to level up in this game. So we're going to get our last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 levels. Well, probably 5 at that point, because we're going to get the automatic from this palace after we beat it. So, good rule is to wait for most of these to stack and then just use your block breaking abilities and carve out a little covered path for yourself. If you get impatient like I am right here, then there's no harm in moving a little bit quicker, but then they add in these eyeballs just to make things frustrating. Just need some more bricks on that right-hand side there. We can make this jump barely. There it is. Of course, we take a brick to the head or 2. But that's fine. Just a patience game right there. I like the use of the block breaking though. It's a nice gameplay mechanic right there. Just waiting for those bricks to get in the orientation that you want. Get yourself extra bit of magic right there. In this case, we can top off our bar. And don't do what I just did. Put yourself in a very stabby situation between those 2 orange knights. Gonna head left at the bottom of this elevator. Need to be careful. They're going to start working in some pits, some invisible pits in the floor, which are extremely frustrating. We'll point them out once we get to them, but very frustrating. In this case, we do need to use our jump spell and try to just get as much space between us and this guy as possible. Or just fight him. Quite the temper Link has. Right there. He's very stubborn. Taking all that damage. As he was today, bailing out on his toys, but that's okay. We will finish strong without him, especially once we hit that leveling spot after this. This is probably the last palace you'll really struggle with. At least until the Great Palace. I suppose that's not the biggest consolation, considering there's only, 2 more palaces to go after this anyway, so... But yeah, the Great Palace isn't too bad, assuming you know the most direct route, which we'll cover. That's the biggest absolute maze in this game. It's a straight shot at the moment, so let's bring in Fluff for another Fluff fact about Zelda 2.
Here are a few more mildly interesting facts about Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. One of them relates to the title itself, as this is the only game in the entirety of the Legend of Zelda series without Legend of Zelda in the title. It also is the only game with a number in the title, as the majority of the games in the series were identified exclusively by their subtitle. It's also one of the few games in the series where the usually famously mute Link has lines, such as when he discovers the mirror under the table to subsequently return to its owner. Hey, I did say these were mildly interesting after all.
They were mildly interesting. Yeah, just killing time. I appreciate that, Fluff. We're gonna head back out the way we came in. You can see this nice little fluid motion we can do once we have, especially if we have a low ceiling. Just kind of ride those kangaroos. Ooh. Every little bit helps at this point. I will certainly take that. Not at the expense of some health, of course. And these guys are gonna try to fill up the whole screen. Can be a messy area right here if you let it be. Keep a good pace. Do the down stab to get through everybody here relatively unscathed. I think there's a potion up there. Oof. This might be a shield situation. Or if we can lure him far enough away. Now that the right side's open, come with me. Come on over here. Trying to preserve as much magic as possible. The boss of this dungeon is not a gimme by any stretch. Here we go. Alright, what do we got this time, Blaze?
Alright, the flute clears the spiders so you can get down to the southern part of the continent, and it also allows you to access the penultimate dungeon. So there you go, the flute.
Yeah, another one of those just feels like a phone-in item. It's just something you need to progress the game and not something you can actually use strategically. But whatever. They're thinking to themselves, hey, we gave you fire. Ooh, alright. This is gonna be close. You've still got that no death run intact at the time of this 5th palace. We'll see, we got an illusionary wall right here. We can walk right through it, DuckTales style, or a lot of game style, I suppose. Illusionary wall is very big in the late 80s. It's like developers just realized, ooh, this is a thing. This is a nice way to kind of wow the gamer without us having to do anything. We're getting sloppy with our magic right now, but again, I don't think we had enough to do anything with to begin with. And looking for one more magic sack around here, or magic potion. Never came to a consensus as to what I want to call these things. curious how many stabs this guy's gonna take. That's not too bad with a level 5 sword. Think we might have one here? Oh, that's a godsend. Alright. So we're gonna use our life ASAP here. And we didn't get quite as much as I would like out of that, but that may have been a wash, quite honestly. Yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but yeah, I don't think we were going to get through this one without that. Not worried about points at this point in the game. Just trying to survive. I wonder if level 8 we can take down those orange knights with one hit. Right now it seems like we're getting through it with 2. This is probably a shield situation. Jump might be more effective actually here. I don't know. I may regret this. No, this should be okay. He's not paying attention. And we just exit back out the way we came in. Him being none the wiser. That worked out very well actually. I'm trying to think if we have enough magic left in the tank for one more heal. Certainly don't now. Just prioritize shielding, as we are very close to the boss finally now. Gonna not take any needless hits from these guys. Bounce over him. Bounce over this guy. Might be better served just fighting him. Ooh, that is a godsend at this point in this palace. Let's do the life trick. Nice, definitely worked that time. Got a little more out of that. And next boss, Gary.
Boss beater.
Alright, Gooma! Use the crouch jump attack immediately following the mace attack every time he attacks you. Then retreat and dodge the next mace attack and just keep repeating like you're seeing right here. It's very effective. Just get the timing right and you'll take him down.
Alright, thank you, Gary. Yeah, gotta be very careful with that mace. That'll smack you across the screen. Just go for those gut punches like King Hippo. Possibly a distant cousin. By the way, you don't have to do the jump stab. You can just do ground-based stabs, just normal attacks. But we like the jump because it allows you to start pulling away as you do that stab versus just having those feet planted in the ground. But there we go. Alright, so now we will finally get that level 6 attack. But everything's going to be level 8 very soon after this. There we go. Alright. Let's now head back across the ocean here. Back to the main part of this continent. And now we're going to head south to where the spider was. Just some points that we're ignoring and other caves and all that stuff. We got everything that we want. Everything that we need from this point is just south of here. Play that flute with A. Don't need to equip it or anything. Once you have it, that's good. And you'll have this weird fence screen. But I like these orange guys, giving you a cool 150. Only taking a couple hits. Probably the best return for the least amount of effort. Incidentally, they are the ones involved in my leveling scheme, which is not too far from here. Got another town coming up, so don't sweat if you're getting smacked around quite a bit at this point in the game. It's a lot to dodge, all the projectiles and all that unfun stuff. I guess we can avoid the graveyard for now. Try not to die. We'll have a town coming up, but not before we go through a couple relatively easy obstacles. It's going to stay on the north side of this little river here. Can go through this cave once we get there. He's one of those guys that I like. 3 hits for right now. We could just start grinding right there to get our level up, but the beauty of doing it on the other side of this cave is that we'll have a town close by so that we can pop in on demand if we ever need to top off our health. Or magic. And they're right outside, so. The only thing you need is your hammer, which you'll certainly have at this point in the game. Can't get here without it, actually. So this is where I misspoke earlier, and these are the enemies, where the orange ones are worth more than the possibly objectively harder red ones. So this is where we're going to be grinding. Show you where the town is first. Those guys are worth a cool 150 with very little effort. Oh, got a fairy. We throw in one of those every now and then with the random encounters. So it should be the northwest corner of these trees that we need to clear out and find the hidden village. There's a village south of where we cleared out that spider, and that's where the old version of this town is. So they moved after Ganon ruined everything, killed the party. Now we're in the hidden town of Kasuto. This is that point in the game where they're like, wow, just a visitor. And they give you a freebie. They're like, all right, you found our town. You've earned some sweet magic. And that's actually a useful hint. We do want to head to the end of town, which seems empty and deserted and everything. So we get our magic jar right there. Alright, so I've shown you where you should level up, so I'm going to skip ahead now until we've done some grinding. Alright, all 8s across the board now. Probably took about 20 minutes, something like that, to get all those levels up. But now the 6th and final palaces will be a lot easier. I'm gonna pop in this house here, and you see this tiny little door, which somehow leads to this massive room in the chimney or something, I'm not sure. This guy, again, if you're not sure that they've completely run out of ideas at this point, they're just giving you a random spell which we can use just to move the plot along. And once we have that, we're going to head all the way to the east end of town here. Just this empty lot. But use that spell the guy just gave you. We'll pop into this completely unnecessarily sized door. Like, again, that's not to scale, but what do we got, Blaze?
Alright, the skeleton key. No more keys necessary once you pick this up. So refreshing. Don't have to worry about keys anymore. You can go wherever you want in the dungeon with the skeleton key. Just wish we would have gotten it a little bit sooner, but I understand from a game development point of view why it was so late.
Yes, it is refreshing to not have to worry about keys anymore, even if it is this stage in the game. I'm honestly not sure if we need this or not for the 6th dungeon, at least. There's still some keys, I think, once we get in there. I could be mistaken. Just watch along and find out, I suppose. Alright, so we did our grinding. We can head back out now once you're all leveled up. We're going to go grab the final heart piece, which is not too far from the outside of this cave here. You notice a big difference in your attack at this stage once you have that maxed out, obviously. The damage you take, quite a bit less now from most hits. And the magic, everything just is a bit more affordable. Note that if we get 9,000 points now, like we will obviously when we beat the next dungeon, it's just going to be redeemed for a 1-up at this point, so we don't care about points anymore. But pop in down here, their hidden area, and there's the final heart. Alright, we are completely maxed out at this stage. There's one more spell to be had, actually, because there is one more town. The burned out version of the one that they moved, or the reason they moved. But this is the final palace of the conventional sense, before the Grand Palace. we use our flute there, right in the middle of those, that Triforce of rocks. So yeah, clearly still plenty of locks, but now that we have our skeleton key, this makes this dungeon a lot easier, a lot faster, plus the fact we're all leveled up. Might be one of the easier ones, it's still just a bit of a maze, so. And we have one more item to get here, so you force that guy off. That's another one of those jumps where you need to be right at the edge, have full momentum when you jump, make sure you do a full jump to clear that pit. And when you're tank mode like this, you can afford to just kind of barrel right through most of the obstacles. It's really nice. Don't show any respect to, come on man, to a lot of these enemies. We don't stop to fight them. Let's see if we can make this jump here. There it is. Alright, you might want to use the jump spell here. There's one of those pits I was talking about. It's just past the third column, a little bit left of center between these two. So jump right about there and you're good to go. A lot easier when you have the jump spell. You don't have to be quite as precise. You can wait and see where the eyeball maybe drops its flames because they drop right through. We have a mini boss here. It's a rehash of a boss we've already fought. They do this a couple times, but the fact that we have maxed out attack right now makes this a lot more satisfying. You'll see how many damage points we land each time. The annoying bit is just getting him to stay on screen to fight us. There we go. 2 hits. Once he's dismounted, and there's a key for whatever it's worth. Alright, what do we got this time, Blaze?
Alright, the cross allows Link to see otherwise hidden enemies. Very useful for some of the screens with kind of the eyeballs, which wreak havoc on you if you don't know where they're coming from. So make sure you get this item. It's just a passive. It'll immediately start working, show you where the enemies are. Very useful.
Alright, thank you very much, Blaze. I think that's it for the items today, so thank you very much. Excellent work in both classes. We're going to skip right past over that same pit. We're going to try to stay up here. In this case, we didn't make that jump, but this would be a good time to trace our steps back to the opening of this palace. Grab ourselves a magic top off. Even completely maxed out, you know, it's still... Especially, I mean, we're not taking it super seriously, being quite as strategic and defensive as we normally would be. Knowing that we have that potion back at the start, if and when we want it. I don't want to tangle with this guy too much. It's interesting, the guy on the horse. Oof. Is he gonna kill us here? That was about to be the first death. The guy with the horse equivalent, as we just bounce off of this guy. He only took 2 hits once he was down. Oof. Oh my god. We were about an inch from having our no death run compromised. Not a good look. Alright, so let's talk to no one on our way out of here. This might be empty considering we already hit it on the way in. Oh no, there we go. Well, that was very timely. If that had been a knight in that position, that may have killed us, I don't know. Alright, so I'm going to keep exiting and entering, trying to top off our health and magic. And while we do this, let's bring in Fluff for another Fluff fact about Zelda 2.
The professor is pitching a shutout so far, so not to jinx him, but if you happen to die here in Zelda 2, the screen violently flickers, a visual effect known for sometimes triggering seizures. When Zelda 2 was released on the Wii and other systems' virtual consoles, the flickering which shows when you die was removed and replaced by a solid color for safety reasons. If you happen to run out of all of your lives here in Zelda 2, you'll see a silhouette of Ganon accompanied by a satisfied and evil laugh in response to your misfortune. This laugh was slightly tweaked, yet taken straight out of another game we recently did a class on in Punch-Out, as it was used by a number of bosses like Soda Popinski when he would defeat you by knockout. Keen-eyed members of our class might also recognize Ganon's silhouette as the emblem on our very own Scary Gary's Toughest Boss Award he hands out to the toughest ounce in many of the games we cover here on Video Games 101.
Well, that sounded familiar. Thank you, Fluff. I'd like to think very distantly Ganon and Soda Pop are related somehow. Alright, so now we can actually jump down here, the second one, stay to the right. Drop down another level, and then pull right. Unlock this door with our skeleton key. Mind the pits again, they're going to start throwing these guys at you. Don't love that they're staggered now. See if we can't. We just keep it at 1, that works, we just kill it. And sometimes there's a bit of a gap before they start respawning, sometimes it's finite, it's just depends on the screen. It's all a bit random, it's, you know, whatever's happening in the programming there. Just crushing those guys. Needs to be a handful. So obviously here we need to go full fairy. Just do your best dodging right here. A lot going on. If you made it through without getting hit, bully, very nicely done. Really not in the mood to entertain any of these fellas at this point in the game. We're just cutting right through, trying to finish this one off. We have yet another one of those horse mini-bosses right here. No shame in popping another shield. Alright, 2 hits to get him off the horse, and then another 2 to take him down. And another key for, I don't know, the mantle or something. I think it says we have 2 keys now. Just keep adding them up. But yeah. Don't think I need to tell you we're shaving a lot of time off of this palace by having that master key, the skeleton key. If you can stay up right there, it doesn't matter. That was just me trying to do a bit of skill. There's a 1-up on the other edge of that. So if you wanted that, then use the jump spell. But if lives aren't a concern for you right now, just keep pressing on. Alright, slightly different boss this time. Gary.
Boss beaters. Alright, Barba. Not a difficult boss. Stay on the middle platform and hit Barba when they rise and fall, and then retreat to the left platform in between when he's getting his shots off. You can use the jump magic to make dodging and retreating very easy, plus you can get an additional attack in sometimes at the peak of Barba. You can jump over his shots with the jump magic very effectively, like we're showing you right here, but good luck with Barba, not that hard.
Yeah, the main thing, like I said, just stay in the middle of the platforms. Last thing you want is to be thrown into the lava. Let him beat you with his fire shot, you know? Don't let him beat you with the lava itself. So now we get everything topped off. We should get an extra life that we didn't get from that jump, I suppose. Not even sure how many we have at this point. It says it'll go up, but it will not. So, it's just a life. Alright, so now we're going to cross this bridge. And if you wanted to do this before you went to that last palace, not necessarily the worst idea, I'm realizing, because we could have gone back to that palace and it, you know, topped off our health and everything there, ended that with full health, versus right now, you have to come to this area and risk taking a bit of damage just to meet this guy. Not too bad though, we have that cross, we can see those eyeballs, which wouldn't have been here before. And now he's giving us the quote-unquote most powerful magic, and it feels like another cop-out to me because it's one of those spells where you need it just so that you can actually fight the last boss. You don't use it, or the second to last boss, I should say. You don't use it to damage the boss, it just allows you to damage the boss, so whatever. So there's no one here to heal you or anything, so just head back the way you came once you got that. And now we're headed to the final palace in this game. Biggest maze. Biggest palace. Let's just follow the route that we take, but they didn't even make it very easy to get to said final palace, unfortunately. You have to go through quite a few obstacles first. Some of the most dangerous pits in the game, actually, quite honestly, so be careful. We got you. We're walking you through it. Definitely don't want to run into enemies on these graveyard screens, or in the graveyard. Sometimes you can actually, go ahead and just kind of working the numbers at this point, you know? Keeping an eye, trying to keep that magic as high as possible while keeping that health as high as possible. Sometimes you can, because the random enemy encounters trigger on these screens, obviously, or on the overworld. And if you, because there's these hidden areas, like one right here, if you ran into an enemy, like while you were crossing onto this square before you like came into it, it would give you the enemy screen instead, which is objectively easier than what we're going through right here. So first order of business, I always recommend having a jump spell cast, and then clearing out the way of these eyeballs by way of your up and down slash. Oof, that was dangerous. We just do the duck and jump and slash to clear out those guys with a low ceiling. We have 2 or 3 more of these to go through those hidden areas, but slow play, don't go too fast, mind the eyeballs. And we might have hit another one there. We might have gotten the pass. I'm not sure exactly where that hidden area is. Might be right. Well, I think we got away with one, actually. That's nice. I don't care about this bag, but just don't want to get knocked into the lava. It's a very tricky combination of quick-moving flying enemies and the slower-moving flying enemies. You don't really want to take your chances with either. You don't want to get overwhelmed on the screen. And while we're working our way through, let's get one final fluff fact.
Here's a fun fact. The names of the towns here in Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, are the names of the sages which would be introduced in Ocarina of Time.
Thought those sounded familiar. Thank you very much, Fluff. Yeah. As we were reading out the names of the towns and everything. Getting close. Just tried to ride past that guy. He's got the fire spell. Did he go save a child, or I don't even remember how he got that spell at this point, whatever. Alright, we got one more hidden area that we're gonna trigger before we have to go through that final cave. And I'll do life one more time. Ratios are... This isn't too bad of a situation. Again, just like earlier, it's just about preserving as much health, as much mana as you can as you go into this final great palace. There's no, at least at the doorstep, like there normally is, there's no magic replenishing items there, so... We're at a bit of a disadvantage this time, so any pick-me-ups we can grab along the way? Not gonna say no to that. And try to kill that guy before Blue catches up to us. Alright, final palace, the Great Palace. That won't open unless you've gotten everything else. Cleared all the other palaces before you come here. Alright, as I said, this place is a massive maze. There's different ways you can go. This is the most direct and safest route to go, in my humble opinion. So, if you want to check out a map and maybe come up with a different strategy for yourself, then you can go ahead and do that, but this is how I like to go. There's a pit right past that. There we go. mind that. Otherwise, you'll fall into the pit. You're thinking to yourself, well, why would I go down there? Hang out with those jellies. Gonna go right at the bottom of this elevator. Eventually, one of these bridges, a giant jelly's gonna pop down from the ceiling right about there. So, be on the lookout for that. Get ready with the up stab. Every time that ceiling opens up, if you want to have an up stab ready. They're about to unleash a whole new breed of enemies for this area. This guy's certainly one of them, the dancing fire guy. Kind of a variation on that one guy that was throwing hammers earlier. Kind of a variation of the Hammer Brother enemy from Mario. I like to go as high as possible on these. And then drop down. We can't just clear these out to buy ourselves a minute. You can still get those up there on the floor with the down thrust. Not a lot of room to operate in these things, so that's why, just time your jumps, be patient, wait for your openings with regards to the flying dragon skulls. These guys are really annoying. Generally, I just like to run right by them, but they're very fast. They will chase you to the end of the screen, so some screens it works better than others. Flight or fight, as always. Some of these you can go through the wall to get an extra 1-up and things like that. We're not worried about that at this stage in the game. Gonna go right at the bottom of this elevator. Note that some of these fires go out to the left or right. They move on you. Sometimes they come back at you, so it's a tight little window you have to occupy with those guys. Have to pull out the life bag right there. Nice. Yeah, if you want to kill like some relatively easy guys like this, just to make sure you get some mana recovery items after a while. Not a bad idea, assuming they keep spawning. Alright, this is the... You might want to pop a shield here. Probably should have in retrospect, but you want to be quick. If you're not going to fight the guy, go as high as possible. He's going to follow you. We lucked out with how slowly he was jumping. It's, it's random, his moveset, so sometimes he'll catch up to us a bit faster. In that case, the flight worked out well for us, that strategy. Seems like we're about to fight a boss, but it's just to brighten the place up a bit. And they're pulling out fancy variations on a few enemies at this point in the game. Like those flashing skull enemies. Alright, we got another one of these blue guys coming up. You can lure him out. Oof, just in no man's land here. Sucks. And he is gonna follow us. It's alright, there's an elevator right here. We can get out. We're hurting here. Let's find the hole in the wall here. And this is a 50-50 statue right here. Could be a... Yep, okay. That didn't work out, but we had to roll the dice right there. We're so beat up at this point. There's a fairy there to the right if you want to go get it. We have a couple of magic flasks coming up, or what have you, to top off our magic, so we should be okay. I'm gonna roll the dice, use the last of our life spell right there. We're gonna limp into getting these magic restoring items, and we want to go about 2/3 the way in, knock out a block, and drop down. Again, lots of ways to get to where we're going, and there's one of the giant blob areas. And here we're just going to find the opening, disintegrate the bridge, and drop down, and we are pretty much here now. Alright, so if we head left, we will find... Alright, there we go. Use this wisely. That's all I can say. So we're going to top off our life twice here. And then there's one more. Alright, this is all we're going to have for the rest of the game. So see how much we can get out of that. Well, alright. We have enough to use Thunder, that's the main thing. You need to make sure you have enough. I think it costs 64, so whatever that equates to. I guess we'll find out with the level 8. But we need to cast that. Let's get the tips for this one, Gary.
Boss beaters.
Right, Thunderbird. One of the more difficult, maybe the most difficult boss of this game. Cast Thunder at the start, cast Jump, cast Shield, all of these at the start of the battle, and then stay in the middle of Thunderbird to avoid some damage and keep jumping and slashing. It's the safest place to stay right in the middle as Thunderbird moves around, but just keep attacking. Hopefully you got that magic up, you got enough for all these spells, and good luck taking him down.
Alright, thank you, Gary. We'll stick with you for the final boss of the Zelda 2 walkthrough. Take us home.
Boss beaters.
Alright, Shadow Link. You know, this one used to give me a lot of trouble, but now I know you can just stay on the left side of the screen and stab as quickly as possible to defeat this final boss, only taking maybe 1 or 2 hits if you just keep stabbing. It's a little anticlimactic considering how tough this boss could be, but just use this trick, take down Shadow Link without even breaking a sweat, and congratulations, you've beaten a very difficult and great game in The Legend of Zelda 2. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Gary. Excellent work. As we take this Triforce from this sad, much shorter man, and we use it to revive Zelda. As Impa told us, this would break the sleeping spell on her. She awakens well rested. Almost looks like we get a princesses in another castle, except she's staring us down right here. And we're a real hero, like College said. Real human being and a real hero. And I think they get a little behind the curtain. Ah, yeah. Which Link was still around to ask him about it, but there you go. They love their curtains in these NES endings, don't they? Your Mario 3 as another one, but there you go. Link wouldn't jump again for, 30 years or something like that, but this game, it's a great game. One of the harder entries on the, in the Zelda series. Very much its own animal, which Fluff explained why in that first half, but excellent game nonetheless. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. I guess thank you to Link for hanging out for a little bit at least. Thanks to all my TAs. Please consider subscribing if you have not yet already done so. We do one of these classes every single week. Please like this video, leave a comment, your memories of this game if you ever found it to be one of the more challenging titles in the Zelda series or not. We very much appreciate it. The pro gamer right there, a pro gamer I should say. Good times. We'll see you next week in the same spot for next week's class. We hope to see you then. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.